Hello, welcome to the Yth Cltr Podcast. We're here live at Yth Cltr 2026 and I am joined with Anneke.
Hi, John.
Anneke Feiner.
Yes.
We know each other.
We do. We're from the same church in Brighton.
You've been there way longer than me, but not like loads longer. How long have you been there?
About 20 years, I would say.
20 years.
I'm not sure. It might not be exactly. It might be 18, so I'm rounding it off slightly. But
Yeah, you were there. You started there as a student?
yes, correct. Yeah. So I went to university in Brighton, and I became a Christian actually quite soon after. So Emmanuel Church Brighton was my first church.
And you met your husband, Christian?
Yep. Met some Christian Feiner there.
Because you're here at the conference.
Mm-hmm.
You're speaking about how you've decided to approach raising your kids without screens. So how old are your kids?
So my kids are 5 and 8, and perhaps I can elaborate slightly. So I would give my kids screens, but it would be monitored and different things. But yeah, I can explain that a bit further.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
Yeah.
But so you've been in Brighton 20 years. You've started a family in Brighton and you've decided to approach screens with your kids in a way that's not typical. So yeah, why don't you talk about how did that journey begin? What was the thing that made you decide to look at it more intentionally?
Yeah. So my children at the moment, they go to school in Brighton, and I'm quite proactive with the school. So I volunteer with the Parents and Teachers Association. And at one point there was a very large event in Brighton where all the schools were going to, except for my children's school. And so I was like, oh, why are they not going? Why is everyone else going? All the head teachers and all the staff. And then I asked the staff there, and they said, oh, we can't go because we've got a governors meeting. So why don't you go and represent the school? So I went along, and it turned out that this meeting was about SFC, so smartphone-free childhood, and it's a movement across the UK. And what they had done is they had brought along several experts, so experts in the police, experts in medical professions, so doctors, mental health specialists, pediatricians, and then also specialists in education, so head teachers and all sorts. And then they also had youth themselves, so some teenagers sharing stories of their experience with smartphones. So after attending that session and hearing everything that they had to say, it really moved me and changed my whole perception of smartphones, but also perhaps of screen time and of the internet. And that's when I joined the movement of smartphone-free childhood and started helping volunteer to help bring the word out about it, because I think a lot of people might not necessarily know the impacts of owning a smartphone.
Yeah. So before you were invited to this big conference, was it something that was on your radar already, or was this that was a deep dive introduction?
That was definitely a deep dive. It was on my radar already. I think that there was, just from experience, when my children were watching TV or things on TV, I noticed that their demeanor and the way that they reacted, particularly when watching fast-paced programs, was quite difficult afterwards. When they watch sort of slower paced programs, so kind of BBC style programs tend to be a bit slower, then it's okay. So those were things that I noticed myself for the younger children. But I think the topic here for the conference is mostly smartphones and the impact that they have on the generation. Yeah,
because smartphones, there is a difference, but
crossover, isn't there? Yeah.
Screens as a whole, that kind of like the connection to screens and then becoming reliant on screens is the thing, isn't it? But it's cool to hear you were seeing a difference in the way that they behave. So what are some of the differences that you noticed?
So when they're watching sort of fast-paced programs where they continuously get sort of dopamine hits every few seconds, then when it's switched off, they're not getting that input and that excitement every few minutes, and they have to readjust their bodies, readjust their mindset to being back to normal, where they won't necessarily have a lot of impact or a lot of dopamine hits. And so children are still having their brains are still developing medically, and so it takes them a bit of time to adjust to that. Whereas as an adult, we might be able to switch from one thing to the next because our brains are a little bit more developed. But yeah, there's a lot more detail that I'll share in the session later with some of the stats that some of the medical professionals gave to me, which are really interesting. But
so they had all this kind of data supporting what you're seeing. You're seeing something in your own kids, and then you're hearing data from professionals that it's kind of backing it. Well, that's quite cool. It's been discovered and it's being brought out. Did you feel compelled to do? What did you feel compelled to do when you found out the data that you're going to be sharing later today?
I think I would definitely be delaying smartphone use or ownership for my children when they start growing up and start deciding to go to secondary school. But I think what I will try and implement is to see if we can have some more face-to-face interactions to make sure that for meal times, we'll always sit together without any screens or anything in the background, have our food and have conversations and talk, because I think it's important for this next generation to be able to have personable skills.
Yeah.
Because if they are constantly having screens in the background, that will be their distraction, and they'll be getting all of the interactions there, and they won't learn how to use personable skills. So it seems from data and research, it says that even just having a meal with your children without any screens once a day just has such a big impact for their personable skills as they grow up.
So literally just being able to socialize and being able to see a face rather than a screen. Or and particularly the face without the distraction of the screen in the background or on the table or that kind of thing.
Or even just having the confidence to step out. So actually I met a teacher not too long ago, and she said she teaches in secondary school. She said that there was a child that went to her class and she was very bubbly and happy and a really lovely character. And whenever there were questions or things that were going on in the classroom, she'd happily put her hand up and say, "Oh, it's this, oh, it's that." And then at some point in the class, because smartphones were allowed in the classroom, someone took a picture of her putting up a hand and put it on social media saying, "Oh, she's a teacher's pet," or that sort of thing.
Oh, no.
And then the secondary school teacher then noticed throughout the year that this lovely bubbly character then started becoming less confident and less willing to put up her hand, just very self-conscious as to what everything was going on around her and what was going on in the online world. Wow. And I think sometimes it's just really sad to see how something like that can really have a big impact, and can make children anxious.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing. Like the fact that she was aware of the online world when she's living in the real world. Yeah. The online one is affecting how she behaves in the real one.
Yeah.
And I suppose that's the main thing that's kind of coming through is that we're forgetting how to live present in reality because we've become so eroded by this other world that exists alongside us.
Yeah.
So how do you find this relates with faith and raising them in faith and raising them in the knowledge of Jesus?
Yeah, that's a great question as well. So particularly with this current generation, I know that there's been studies of it being the silent revival and Gen Z coming to God. I wonder if what this generation are going through, they're on this online world with their phones, they're getting all these dopamine hits or the addictive nature that they get on the phone, and then they realize actually I've still got a hole, there's something still missing here, even though I've got the world at my fingers, I've got all the knowledge or everything, but there's still something missing inside. And so what I imagine is that they're looking to God for that, and that's the right place to go. And the amazing thing, even if there are children that are impacted by what they see, so for example, I've got a friend whose son went on a sleepover, and at that sleepover, their son saw some images that were not great, some pornographic images.
Right.
And then from that moment onwards, her son had a sore tummy, had butterflies in their tummy and couldn't sleep, had nightmares, everything, lots of things just did not go right. And it was like that for about 2 years.
Oh,
and
wow,
then,
that's long.
And then someone prayed for her son at church. And because we know a God he's our creator, he's our healer, he restores our soul. And so someone prayed that this little boy would just almost forget those images and that he would be restored and that he'd be able to sleep again, he'd be able to do all the things that he used to. And amazingly, God healed him and he was able to sleep and become a lovely, bubbly child. It's like his childhood was restored again.
That's so good.
And that's the amazing thing that we have with Jesus, with God, is that he is our creator. He knows us in and out. He knows us mentally and physically, and he can restore us. And that's an amazing thing. And that's what youth leaders and everyone here at the conference hopefully will be pointing teenagers to, is pointing them to God. And that's our job as parents as well, to point our children to God.
Yeah, that's what you're saying. The restoration. I love that. That's a huge part of what God is doing, is restoring all things to himself.
Yeah.
I suppose, when you're raising a child, how aware are you then of, because there's things that aren't yet lost. So that example of the sleepover, that was, before that moment, there wasn't something to be restored because it hadn't been stolen or like robbed from them yet. So how do you approach raising your children and doing, not just undoing negative things, but how do you approach putting positive things in place?
Yeah, a great question. Actually, when you were saying that, I just was thinking about, so in Genesis, when Adam and Eve are in the Garden of Eden, and then eventually they too take the apple and they eat of the apple and they have that knowledge of good and evil, and the first thing that comes is shame and feeling shameful and naked. And I think sometimes when children get given or see images that they're not ready to see yet, they feel that shame and that nakedness. So as a parent, it's my job to protect them from seeing anything, but also it's difficult to always do that. It's also just to explain things. So I often explain to my children, for example, for the internet is useful. You can find lots of good information, but there is some content there that is for adults and some content for children. And it'd be same for movies. There's some content, whether it's PG or 18, it's the same with the internet. So in terms of directing them to God, what I like doing is having community. So raising the children with some of the students or the youth in the church.
Oh, great.
Kids will see some of them and want to be like them, or kids will, for example, we've got someone called Theo Dawson in our church, and both my children absolutely love him. And he leads some of the kids' work groups, and anything he says, they would just lap it all up.
Wow.
And they want to be like him, and that he's a great example and a wonderful yeah. And there'll probably be lots more people like that. I mean, what else do we do? I guess make sure that we read the words, because God's given us the Bible and it's the truth. It's the sword of the Spirit.
Yeah.
There are things that we read to them maybe that will go over their head, but at one point it might come to them and they might meet God through it.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Have you had any moments where you feel that you've seen, or maybe even your kids have said, like that described a moment where they feel like God's met them through your reading or through the things that you're doing?
I have. So my son Joshua, he's very open to God, and I'm trying to remember specifically the example, but in the evenings that's when he likes to talk. And so he was talking about how when he was at school, there were some children talking about when they're having difficult situations, they don't know where to go, or they don't know who to go to when their parents aren't around. And then Joshua said to me then, he's like, well, Mummy, I know Jesus is in my heart. And when I'm feeling like that, I can go to Jesus, and I know that I can pray to him and ask him for help. And I thought that was such a lovely moment. And sometimes as a parent, you don't know what's going in and what's not going in.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And I do like to talk to him a lot about having a relationship with Jesus, just so that it's not just knowledge and stories. So that hopefully was a moment where he realized that when he was at school.
Yeah, that is amazing. Well, thanks so much for being with us today on the podcast. Just before you go, what's one thing that you would really love to encourage other parents with as they're trying to navigate raising their kids in this kind of way?
Yeah, sure. So I really love Psalm 39, where it says, and now, Lord, for what do I wait? So it's like saying, God, what do I do now? And it's almost, and then the response is my hope is in you. And so it's almost like we've got someone far higher and who knows the plans for our lives, who knows the plans for our children. And the great thing that we can do as Christians, as parents, is that we can almost give our children to God and lift them up in prayer. I think that's the best thing that we can do. That'd be the best message of hope, because essentially God's got them, and God's got a plan for them, and God's got a plan for you and your whole family. So,
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you for joining us for this episode.
For more conversations, tools, and resources, check out our other episodes and follow us on socials.